The Euphrates River is one of the most historic rivers in the world. It features many important chapters of human history. The river is going through a very difficult situation right now. Scientists are shocked with the rate with which it is drying up. However, more concerning than the dropping water volume are the prophecies associated with the drying up of the river Euphrates and the major religions of the world. Is it trying to warn us about the end of the world? The Euphrates is one of the prominent rivers in West Asia. It is known as Frat in Turkish. It rises in eastern Anatolia, generally flowing through southeastern Turkey around Şanlıurfa, Adıyaman, and Gaziantep provinces before crossing the border into Syria and then Iraq before emptying into the Persian Gulf in Basra after joining the Tigris River in Shat al-Arab. Euphrates' total length is approximately 2,800 kilometers or 1,740 miles, with 971 kilometers or 603 miles in Turkey. The river has two headwaters, the Karasu and Murat rivers, which join somewhere near the Kaban district of Elazığ province, where stands the Kaban Dam, one of Turkey's largest. Karaykaya is another significant dam on the river. The Euphrates has been a hub of human activities for thousands of years. The Euphrates River flows through the center of Babylon. Seasonal flooding was mitigated by steep embankments on both sides. The Tigris, Iraq's other great river, flowed just north of the metropolis, joined to the Euphrates by a latticework of waterways that irrigate the land, creating an agricultural bounty and contributing to Babylon's unparalleled wealth. It was nearby that King Hammurabi codified one of the world's earliest legal systems 3,770 years ago, erected massive walls, built opulent temples, and united all of Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. In 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar II, arguably the city's most powerful ruler, conquered Jerusalem and marched the Jews into captivity, giving rise to the 137th Psalm verse made into the popular song, "By the Rivers of Babylon." By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. He also designed the Hanging Gardens, which were regarded as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world due to their tiered, lavishly watered terraces. The Greek historian Herodotus proclaimed that there is no city that approaches Babylon in magnificence. Looking at the current state of the river today might be hard to believe, but this stretch of the river was once a showcase of water management in Babylon. When Cyrus the Great marched through the country of Babylon, his army came to the canals, which were cut between the Tigris and the Euphrates in order to circulate the latter's waters, which would otherwise drown out the adjacent country when the snows melt upon the Armenian mountains. Great canals as large as rivers run parallel with the Tigris and Euphrates, and scores of others intersected the valley connecting the two streams. There was hardly a corner where the entire country was not well watered. The canals also served as waterways for crop transportation. The river also served as a route for religious warriors who spread Islam throughout the Middle East. In AD 656, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law, relocated the capital of his caliphate from Medina to Kufa on the Euphrates south of Babylon. Kufa's fertile fields of wheat, date palms, rice, and other crops stretched for miles from both of the banks. The Euphrates has been at the heart of many Iraqi cities' identities for millennia, right up to our modern times. Fallujah's strategic location on the river drew a slew of invaders, from the Persians to the Romans who attacked Fallujah in the 3rd century AD. Caravans from Arabia stopped in Fallujah to water their camels in the river on their way to the Mediterranean. Uday and Qusay Hussein, the Iraqi dictator's sons that built villas near the Euphrates and created an artificial lake using the river water. Saddam Hussein built one of his 81 palaces in Iraq overlooking the Euphrates and Fallujah in 1995. However, the news from the experts about the river is dire. The Euphrates and Tigris rivers in Iraq will run dry within 2 decades unless action is taken, according to a report by the country's water ministry. The bad news is that these two rivers provide 98% of Iraq's surface water supply. In fact, Iraq could become a land without rivers as soon as 2040. What exactly is happening with the Euphrates River? What is causing it to dry up? It's a complex set of reasons, but climate change, conflict, and indiscriminate dam construction in neighboring countries have all contributed to a water crisis that threatens the livelihoods of millions in the region. According to Berkeley Earth, a nonprofit organization based in California that focuses on climate science, Iraq's annual temperatures are rising at nearly twice the rate of the rest of the world. Since the late 1800s, the world has warmed by an average of 1.3 degrees Celsius, while Iraq has warmed by a whopping 2.5 degrees Celsius. However, many of the problems are human-made. For generations, the Turkish government has been on a dam-building spree in an effort to generate electricity and create arable land. The Kaban Dam on the upper Euphrates was completed in 1974. In 1990, the Ataturk Dam was also completed. The Southeastern Anatolia Project, a $32 billion scheme to construct 22 dams and 19 hydroelectric plants on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, will eventually supply nearly 1/4 of Turkey's electricity. Meanwhile, Syria constructed the Tabqa Dam upstream from Raqqa in the 1970s and added a few more dams on the Euphrates and its tributaries before the civil war halted development. Since the Turkish and Syrian dams were built in the 1970s, water flow into Iraq has been reduced by nearly 2/3. For decades, Iraq has fought with both neighbors for its fair share of the water. The conflict came close to erupting into violence in the early 1970s when Turkey and Syria diverted the Euphrates River into a series of reservoirs, nearly drying out the river downstream in Iraq. In response, the Iraqi government built a network of canals connecting the Euphrates River to Lake Al-Thatar, a reservoir northwest of Baghdad, and according to the Iraqi ministry, the Euphrates River will only be filled to 1/3 of its original capacity by 2035. Combining it with the loss of water in the Tigris will leave Iraq short of 80% of the 53 million cubic liters it consumes each year. And independently, a recent NASA German satellite study concluded that the Tigris-Euphrates loses groundwater faster than any other place on the planet, except India. The World Resources Institute, a nonprofit environmental organization based in the United States, has identified Iraq as one of the countries that will face extremely high water stress by 2040. The effect of the drying up of the Euphrates is already playing out and taking a toll on the citizens of Iraq. According to aid organizations, the current water crisis is already threatening the lives of not less than 7 million people in Iraq and limiting access to food and electricity. Wheat production in the north of Iraq can drop by up to 70%. The irrigation system would need a massive overhaul to improve the situation, which could cost somewhere between $50 and $70 billion. It's really expensive for a nation that is struggling to the core financially. This means starvation is common, and apart from that, as dams run dry, the electricity supply suffers, disrupting the operation of healthcare facilities and other critical infrastructure. The drying waters on the river Euphrates, however, have had an unintended consequence. Archaeological discoveries, many of these formerly submerged sites, are now turning up as the riverbed dries up. The decline of water levels at the Euphrates Dam Lake in eastern Syria recently revealed a large archaeological burial site. The site, which dates back to the Byzantine civilization in the Raqqa province, stretches over large areas on the eastern bank of the Euphrates Dam, Tabqa Dam Lake. Starting from the Wadi Sa'al al-Kasab and Shams al-Din area in the northwestern country of Raqqa until the administrative border between Raqqa and Aleppo. The drop on the Euphrates and the Tigris waters during the past 3 years has uncovered many archaeological sites that were submerged in the waters of the two rivers that cross through Syria, Iraq, and Turkey. Abdul Razak al-Aliawi, an engineer and former director of Syria's maintenance department from the Euphrates River, said, "The Euphrates riverbed witnessed 6 historical eras, including the Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, Greek, Byzantine, in addition to Islamic era. Building dams in the first place," he said, "was an unjust decision." Last year in July, the receding waters of the Euphrates River in the city of Anna in Iraq revealed the ancient cities of Talbis. Mohammed Jassim, an Iraqi archaeologist, reported the emergence of at least 80 historic sites due to the decrease in the water level of the Haditha Dam. Receding water on the Kaban Dam Lake on the Euphrates River in the Aegean region in eastern Turkey brought to the surface the historical Aztec castle, which can only be reached by boat. According to the head of the history department at the first university in Turkey, Korman San, the castle is believed to be a temple dating back to the pre-Christian era. He explained in a press statement at the time that the castle consists of 3 floors carved inside the rocks with Greek inscriptions on its inner walls. Saad Fanza, who worked for nearly 30 years on the National Museum of Damascus as director of the Photographic Archive and the Documentary Archive of Syrian Antiquities at the museum, said, "The receding waterbed of the Euphrates River and the discovery of the archaeological sites is not new. Similar sites resurfaced in the 1980s when the dam lake water dropped. The Euphrates River crosses Syria and Iraq. The Tigris flows from Turkey to Iraq. Due to the global drought, archaeological sites will keep resurfacing in these countries. This drying up of the river has significance in two of the most important religions in the world. Christianity and Islam and adherents are paying close attention to the prophecies tied to the river. It has been written in scriptures that the drying up of the Euphrates marks the start of the Armageddon. It's a sign that the end of the world is near. Should we be worried about this specific information? What will happen when the river completely dries up? Are the end times near? Let us know in the comments.